Bases dropped on a new round of soccer down here. We are live at the Line Creek Brewing Company Bus Barn in Fayetteville. Thanks to everybody who's hanging out with us tonight. We got a lot to talk about. We have some special folks coming up that are going to be a part of the show tonight. And one of those will be coming up in just a little bit, Scott Flood with the Flood Project, talking about stuff. Not quite yet. Enjoy your liquid of choice. Yeah, you're in the green room, so it's going to be a couple of minutes. But first, we want to start things off with our opening kickoff brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee, kickoffcoffeeco.com. And you can also follow them at Kickoff Coffee CO on Instagram, on Facebook, and on Twitter. And thanks to everybody who has been investing in Kickoff Coffee ever since we started our relationship with them, because if you use the code SoccerDownHere15, you get 15% off your investment with Kickoff Coffee. In turn, they take 10% of the proceeds, reinvest them in the youth projects and the youth game, something very, very cool that they do at Kickoff Coffee at kickoffcoffeeco.com. Jason will be coming up in just a little bit to talk about Atlanta United. Scott Flood will be coming up, and our special guest tonight, Jessica Charman, color commentator for Charlotte FC, who is part and parcel to action here in the Southern Crescent. You know her from her time calling college action, calling Peachtree City MOBA. Now she's with Charlotte FC. So her schedule's very, very busy. Very, very blessed to have her here tonight as well at the Line Creek Brewing Company Bus Barn here in Fayetteville. And by the way, for those of you who have not come down to this particular part of Fayetteville, and it's been a while since I've been down here, great to see all of the development going on and then all of the reinvestment that you're seeing here in the city of Fayetteville here downtown toward City Hall, and especially here, the folks at Line Creek. And thanks to them for all of their patience and being part and parcel of our tour that we have here. It would not be possible without folks like that, folks like them, and folks like you who are either watching on Twitch or are here hanging out with us tonight at dinner. So a big shout out to all of you folks who are here tonight as well. So the opening kickoff, once again, brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee. And, you know, we have a lot of different championships that we like to talk about here, a lot of different leagues that are winding down. So the soccer calendar never really stops. We do have some new champions in some other leagues, NPSL, UPSL, but the college game is starting, and so keep an eye on your favorite colleges as well. You'll see Jason calling action for Georgia State, and with their action just starting up on the women's side, you've got Clayton State hanging out. You got Oglethorpe, and so we'll be keeping an eye on everything. So what I would ask you for the opening kickoff is that if you are close to a match, regardless of level, grassroots, summer league, college, go spend some time and go look at the quality that you're seeing here in the southeastern United States with the products that is out there, and just reinvest in the community that way as well. So if there's a chance for you to catch a college match, chance for you to catch a college doubleheader on the women's side and the men's side, regardless of where you might be, even if you're attached to a particular school, and you can catch these matches, go do it. So that way you can see things at the grassroots level continue to grow here in the Southeast as they have continued to do so. So that is the opening kickoff. It is my humble request to all of you who are watching in one way or another here on Twitch or here in person. So that's the opening kickoff, once again brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee. KickoffCoffeeCO.com is the website. You can follow them at Kickoff Coffee CO on Facebook, on Instagram, and on Twitter. Follow all of their action, and you can be a part of everything that they're trying to do. Use the code SoccerDownHere15, and I would reach over to the end of the very large table to show you on Twitch who are watching, and those of you here, what Kickoff Coffee looks like. It's a big container. I might have Scott grab it as he comes over here and hangs out and sits down. But Soccer Down Here 15% off when you invest in Kickoff Coffee, and they reinvest 10% into youth projects as well. So very, very cool stuff from our friends at Kickoff Coffee. And thanks to everybody who is hanging out on Twitch. You've got comments. We got questions. We got questions that can be asked here. You've got QR codes on your tables. If you have any kind of a question, they go to Scott's phone, and he's got a very, very fancy way of bringing up those questions toward the end of the show. And it's could be questions about anything. Could be about your favorite pro team, your college team, the Premier League. Take your pick. It's all there for you to ask us as well. Those of you here, got your QR codes on your tables. And those of you on the Twitch pitch, you can ask your questions that way as well. Big shout out to our friends at American Football Provisions who are hanging out with us here tonight at the Bus Barn, American FUTBOL Provisions.com. And they got some very cool stuff for those of you who are here. Take a peek at what they have. And it's a great imagination that they have with their original products. Plus, they have some stuff as well to make sure that you can show your support for your favorite teams when it comes to being a fan of the game here in the Southeast. Mr. Greenroom, would you like to wander this way, please? Yes. Wander behind me. Here comes Scott Flood of the Flood Project. Now it's time for you to kind of hang out with us here a little bit. And for those that don't necessarily know what's been going on here at Line Creek in Fayetteville in the Southern Crescent, I guess time for, a bit of a bio blast for all the stuff that's been going on here. That it's gorgeous. Bottom line is that the Bus Barn here, it is absolutely gorgeous what they've been able to do here at Line Creek.
Yeah, absolutely. This is their newest location, and if we have some time, we'll sneak one of our guys from Line Creek. He's not looking at us right now. He's looking right now. He's looking at there he is. We might sneak him on here because they have some big doings going on outside of this one, believe it or not. But this facility is amazing. We were going to be here back earlier in the summer. Jason, unfortunately, had some, stuff with COVID going down. So right. We're glad that we could get back here. We're glad that Jason could be here tonight. Line Creek is one of the best. Line Creek honestly owns the South Side when it comes to the breweries, at least right now. There's a lot of talk of other breweries coming in. There's very few that have actually done it. Line Creek has actually got some newer stuff coming.
Cool.
Which is not for me to say, but this facility with the you could smell the barbecue when you got out of the car.
Nothing wrong with that.
Nothing. Now we're gonna
considering that I've had nothing to eat today to this point, I may be heading that direction at some point.
So we need to go back down to your place right outside of Macon.
Old Clinton barbecue.
Jeez. I aged 20 years after eating that.
Well, because, all right, so I blame John T. Edge for this. And John T., his wife, Blair Hobbs, friend of Patty, sorority sisters at Auburn University. And so.
War Eagle.
Yes, there you go. I don't know, for those of you.
Damn Eagle.
WDE, yes. So the show, for those that might know John T., True South on the SEC Network. And what they do is they show the Southeast through food. And they talk about community in the sense of gathering at the table and it being a source of unity and it coming from a bunch of different places. And they're in their 6th season, I believe. One of the episodes had to do with John T. and his growing up. And he grew up in the town of Clinton, Georgia in Jones County, which is just northeast of Macon, about 10 or 15 miles. So one of the places that he started his love for food was Old Clinton Barbecue, since you mentioned barbecue. And you go to Old Clinton, and it's on the Gray Highway, about 15 miles northeast of Macon. The sign says, best barbecue in Georgia. And I'm guessing that you and the boss can basically say that, yes, we agree, it is the best barbecue in Georgia.
The boss, you're adorable. Yes.
Agreed. I'm not wrong.
1,000%. 1,000%. When you don't have to eat anything else with it, you don't put anything else. And it's
vinegar based too. Yeah.
It was so good. We can't thank you enough for bringing that.
You had 2 pounds, right? I think it was 2 pounds in the container.
It was a lot. The bag just never, it was like a clown bag. It just, you keep pulling and it just keeps happening, which was phenomenal, by the way.
Phenomenal.
But hey, boss, we need to get with Jason and Heather next time we're in Macon and just make that a road trip.
Old Clinton barbecue.
Old Clinton barbecue.
But since you mentioned barbecue and you mentioned Old Clinton, when I tag out later on in the show and Jason and Jess are having their own Q&A, I'm going to go over and get the barbecue because, like I said, I've had no food today. I've been running around so much after being out of town for 3 days. And thanks to everybody who has been listening to all of our stuff on the network that we've been posting as well. But yeah, out of town for 3 days, 970 miles on a van.
Yeah,
talking to a lot of folks.
You need AAA as a sponsor.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, or
that's my job, right?
Yeah, well, that's
my job.
Either that or someone that can maybe subsidize a van or subsidize the gasoline or something like that.
Scamper van. Well, you can live out of it. There you go. You can just travel in it. We'll get with Dutch. And if he's watching, if he doesn't, we'll get with Dutch with Scamper Van. And he's a good guy. You need one of those. Those are good. That's good stuff.
But yeah, now that we're back here and we get to hang out here in Fayetteville, here at Line Creek, you sit there and you look at the development that has happened here. You smell the barbecue, and it's a great place for folks to come and hang out and, lunch, dinner, pick your meal where you can go and get the barbecue, come in here, sample what Line Creek has been doing. And, it's once again a part of that fabric that you're talking about when it comes to investing locally. You're seeing Line Creek do that.
Yeah, and, for those watching on Twitch right now, you can't see, but if you haven't been here right outside us, they're building a ton of apartments and condos that are going up, wrapped around an entire green space that has a small kind of amphitheater, a little bit kind of styled stage, but a full playground, what do they call those? Wet pad? What do they call those?
What?
Splash pads. Thank you.
The mom knows
said
the
Jesus.
answer. Yeah.
Where'd that come from? It's just, kids, you bring the family down here, you hang out, you just have to have unbelievable food. Right down next to the barbecue place here, and I'm not going to tell you what it is. You have to go. I'll tell anybody that's watching. When you come down, they have a hidden cigar bar in here. You have to find it though.
Okay.
It's hidden. You have to look for it. So
that's the word hidden. You have to find it.
But that's that. Yeah. So it's an amazing, and we know Paul Kostick and Brian Messer that are the partners on Line Creek, and they're heavily involved in the soccer down here on this part of the
Macintosh High.
Macintosh High and AFC Lightning and the Lasers and everything. So it's just a great venue. There's so much that we can do here, and it's so good to get down here. And we're so happy that we have a new Terminus Legion chapter here in Fayetteville. There you go. He's looking at me. Tesla's looking at me saying to say stuff about him. So, and so they just got that going, and it's a great venue. And what makes it great is that the brewery really takes care of them. They really put a lot of effort into it, like Slowport does up in Gwinnett County.
Right.
There's a lot of really good stuff done to invest in the crowd and that chapter and that supporter group, because it brings them in here. This is the place in Fayetteville to be when it comes to watching Atlanta United or any of your favorite teams. Funny thing, going back to the barbecue, you were sitting there talking about, find your favorite this, find your favorite, and you said maybe it's your favorite pro team. And I swear to God, I thought you said protein, your favorite protein. And I was going to say it's Clinton's damn barbecue. Clinton, that's my favorite
old Clinton
protein.
Barbecue's your favorite protein.
So, yeah.
So basically what you're saying is that we have to work our way toward Middle Georgia.
What I'm saying is we need to do a show in Clinton, Georgia at the barbecue place. That's what we need to do.
And you mentioned great place to watch games that on their boards. It's a constant reminder of everything that they're doing here at Line Creek. It's a home base for a Terminus Legion chapter. They're promoting the fact that I've heard that Atlanta United's playing a game this weekend.
So, somewhere, yeah.
They're
somewhere like just north of Kentucky, right?
Yeah.
Just right Kentucky plus.
Well, yeah, Kentucky plus. And if you mention a particular food that is indigenous to this particular part of Ohio.
I told Jason, he's whining about all those things. Going to just have some Skyline chili. You'll be fine. You'll be sick for a whole different reason. You'll forget about the other stuff.
Yeah. You'll be focusing on the other reasons why you're not feeling well. It's like, all right, so Skyline chili, exactly. But great place to come and watch any match that's here. They're already promoting, Atlanta United and FC Cincinnati. Come here and hang out and watch the match this weekend. It's going to be it's a big match because 9 teams in a very short amount of space chasing after the playoffs in the East and the West. But in the East right now, Atlanta United is a part of that group, #Gaggle, that is chasing after a playoff spot.
Absolutely. And I was joking with Jessica here, being her Charlotte self,
Uh-huh.
that they have LAFC this weekend. And literally every one of the teams directly in front of us that we are staring at, that we need some results to go in our favor with a win coupled, against Cincinnati.
Yep.
There's a legit possibility that every one of those teams could lose those games. They're all playing top competition in the rest of the league. So this is a moving weekend. This is a big-time movement weekend for Atlanta. Cincinnati is a Jekyll and Hyde team to me personally. One week they're
the kings of the draw, by the way.
Yeah, seriously. They know how to get out ahead and then blow it. They know how to come. It's across the board, but this is a big weekend for them, and especially building off of that momentum. I mean, you were there. You were doing it. I mean, we were there. We all saw it. We saw the emotion that came out, and that entire team, everybody. We saw what Pineda was feeling going against his former team in Seattle. We saw everybody, right down to Joseph Martinez, which a lot of people are still wondering what's going on there. I mean, I think this team never had any quit in him. There was never any doubt. I think the fan base can jump in there and start making questions. I don't think this team ever had any doubts behind the scenes. They've just had unbelievable. Jason has said it before. Their points and their results in the standings don't reflect how well they have actually played at times.
Yeah.
And that's not all the time.
19-20 injuries among 37 players this year.
And a couple of them catastrophic.
Yeah.
I mean, you lose Bragazan, you lose Miles Robinson, you lose Joseph for 3 months, you lose Gutman for 3 months, you lose Lennon for a couple of months here, Hernandez, but you're losing backups to the starters and it all seemed to happen in one particular area of the field. And I'll be honest with you, when we came into Seattle, I was nervous because look, Roldan and Jordan and Ladera, here they come, and they're going directly against what is perceived, I guess, to be our weakness, and they could light us up. They could have lit us up quick, and the team weathered that storm. When Rossetto went off, and Moreno came in, but there was a little bit of time in there that United was trying to find their way and kind of get their shape back, and Seattle saw it, and there was a couple of really close, and they did put one into equalize, and it kind of had that feeling. But
when you can pull Raul Diaz off the bench for the final 35 minutes, that's not a bad thing if you're Brian Schmetzer.
And that was a statement win. I honestly believe that's a statement win. Mike Conti, I think, said it on air correctly. That if this team does make the playoffs, you need to look back to that goal and that moment as that potential catalyst in that springboard. So hopefully we can go up to Cincinnati this weekend, get a W, get those 3 points, and couple it with Charlotte and some other teams losing ahead of us, so that we can. I'm sorry.
See, and on that note, we'll just go ahead and bring in our special guest here out of the green room, Ms. Charman, if you would please.
Yeah, come on, Jessica. Nobody wants to hear me talking.
See, but the thing is, when Scott mentions Charlotte FC, I feel like I have to bring you into this discussion now. It's like, Charlotte FC is above them in the table for Atlanta United.
Look, it's been a wild ride this season. It's bringing back a lot of memories, obviously, from 2017 with Atlanta United. And I think it's been really special to be involved with the club from the start, and we've seen a lot of growth. I think we're in a place where not many people expect us to be. But when you look ahead at the schedule, it's a very, very tough run. You mentioned LAFC this weekend, NYCFC in the midweek. So,
gee, thanks. Thanks, schedule maker.
I mean, if we can pick up a point across those two matches, I think you stay in contention for that playoff run. But I think it's going to be a really interesting league this year. And I think it's so close with the teams all competing, bar DC United, pretty much for that 7th spot. And it breaks my heart a little bit because obviously Atlanta United has a bit of my heart. And I think that's fair to say, growing up in this area, as an adult. And I think that it's going to be interesting because I think we're going to be competing hard and fast for that position.
And if I can, because I'm not going to be on like much longer. I actually do have one quick question. I know you'll do some Q&A with Jason at the end here. What's been the single best part of watching this year with Charlotte and watching, whether it's on the field, whether it's the fan base, whether it's any part of it? What's been the single best part of watching an expansion team do what they're doing, much like what happened here in Atlanta? We're seeing it happen in Austin. What is the best part of watching that as it's happening?
I think you alluded to the fan base because it's been really special breaking that attendance record, seeing regular huge turnouts for this side. The atmosphere is incredible. And listen, obviously I still live down here, but I'm seeing week in, week out how much the Carolinas has fallen in love with MLS. And I think it's so awesome to see as the South as a whole. You guys can appreciate it too. Another market is thriving in the South, and it's a Southern takeover in terms of soccer and the appreciation of the game.
Hashtag Southern takeover.
It's a good one, right?
I have to remember that one. Okay.
That's for the barbecue place.
Yeah,
Hashtag
Southern takeover.
Yeah.
You will be back with us later.
I will be back.
Because the folks that have the QR codes on their tables, if you have questions, you hit the QR code dealie, and it took me forever to figure out how QR codes work. I'm not gonna lie, it is. But there's QR codes. I'm gonna scoot over, so it turns us into a 2-shot. Go ahead and scoot over. Yeah, be centralized. But it took me forever. It took me forever to figure out how to do a QR code because I legitimately thought you could just you open up your camera and you go bang on the QR code and it activates it.
It does.
No, but you've got to have like a QR code downloader to do it.
Not on an iPhone.
I'm an Android, so maybe.
And that explains everything. If you don't have an iPhone, you're going to be limited.
Yeah, so literally with my Android phone, I'm sitting there and I'm going, and nothing is working. So you're sitting there, and so I had to, and so I will show you here as you have rested your phone upon mine. I will show you what I actually had to download. And I know everybody's sitting there going, this doesn't surprise me where Nelson's concerned one bit with all of the apps that he has to download. So literally I had to go and download a QR and barcode app.
Don't have to do that on an
I
iPhone.
had to do that. So that's how things are with me. But for those of you here, you can hit the QR code, ask Scott a question. It goes to his phone.
That's fancy.
And at the end of the show, Scott comes back with all the questions from all of you. And we're also, for anybody that has any kind of a question, you can ask in the Twitch pitch. I see that Abby is here. She can't be here tonight, so she's active in the Twitch pitch. Be active in the Twitch pitch with any kind of a question. QR code here for everybody at the tables. If you have questions, it goes to Scott toward the end of the show. Hi.
Hello. The reunion.
It is, and I'm gonna peel back the fourth wall a little bit. I could not be more proud.
Don't.
Why not?
I'm not allowed to be like an emotional woman. I've got to be a calm, collected person.
I could not be more proud to see what you've been able to do there, especially in Charlotte, because you have been doing stuff in the Peach Belt, and it's one of the more competitive D2 conferences that's out there. And you've cornered the market on the Peach Belt the last couple of years. Peachtree City MOBA, you've done stuff with MOBA Soccer, and folks got to watch you there as well. And with everything that you've done on the high schools and all of this stuff, you and I've done high school stuff in the past. You've been throughout this footprint, and now you're there in Charlotte, hanging out year one with a Major League Soccer franchise. Do you seriously have pinch me moments?
Oh, every game, quite frankly, honestly. I think it's been an incredible ride. Sometimes I forget that I only graduated in 2018. So, 4 years out of college, and this was what I've wanted to do for as long as I can remember. Like, I tell stories all the time about how I used to watch Match of the Day when I was a kid, and my parents wouldn't like me staying up because it was at 11 p.m. and I would have to turn my TV down really quiet, and I'd be practicing my commentary because it was really something that I strive to do. And the grind is real with this job. There's not very many positions for it. So, we would drive across state lines. I would take my family with me. We'd be in Tennessee. We'd be in, University of Chattanooga on a Saturday, back to Clayton State on a Sunday. But you have to take those opportunities and pick them up with one hand. And I think what makes the Charlotte FC gig so surreal is how quickly it transpired. A phone call from Jason. Hey, would you be interested? I had to, slap his head off a little bit. I was like, what do you mean? Would I be interested? Are you crazy? Of course I'm interested. And it's been incredible to be with the team from the start. It's been incredible how successful they've been in terms of an inaugural season, particularly with how things maybe looked at the start. But every time I'm in that booth, I'm thankful for the opportunity. And I think it's a real testament, without making myself sound like I'm blowing my own trumpet, for the fact that hard work really does pay off, and making those sacrifices, making those long drives, saying yes to whatever opportunity comes up ends up paying off. And now it does, because I'm literally, it's surreal that my full-time job is doing this, talking about soccer. It's literally my dream come true.
How much teal did you have to add to your wardrobe?
I have a lot of blue, which I already had from Reading FC. It's a slightly different blue, but a lot of the Reading FC blue still comes up. The minty green is also very nice. I enjoy green. Some mint, but it's very wonderful to have a blue team, because obviously that's the color that stole my heart from a very young age.
Yes, Reading. Yes, of course. And you and I get to have our talks about what's going on in the championship on a weekly basis too. All right, so let's go back to the first match and the first goal and all of those moments at Bank of America where you're in a season of firsts here with Will Pelagic. Mm-hmm. And when you're getting to sense all of these firsts, you get the tick-off, first goal, first win, first point, all these firsts. It seems like almost that you could write a story about all of these firsts.
I mean, they made it a movie.
Yeah.
One company came in and made a beautiful movie about the first and the opening of the game, because it really has felt like you're part of a movie, and these moments have been incredible. The team hasn't disappointed. The atmosphere every week is fantastic. And I think that I almost wish that I'd done a diary, honestly, of how I was feeling, because I want to remember those moments forever. And sometimes I'll look back at my phone, I'll look back at highlight reel, listen to myself, not because I want to hear necessarily what I said, but because I want to feel those moments again. That first goal, like you said, from Adam Armour, incredible moment, even though the result didn't end up coming to stand. But it's moments like those that you'll remember forever. And it's wonderful to have that connection with a team from the very beginning, because we know how rare that is. It really only happens in MLS at this level, because everywhere else clubs have existed for so long that if you come in, you're almost like an imposter. Whereas for me, I'm able to feel authentically attached to this club from the very beginning.
And I see you all over the place. You mentioned the idea of never saying no. It's a lot of stuff attached to the club. I mean, today there was another interview that was attached to the club that came out. You're on practically every morning show that I see in Charlotte, whether you're up there and it's like the day after the match and it's like, hey, Jess, we kind of need you for the morning show.
It's just like that. My phone never stops beeping. And I don't know how to say no, because that's what's been ingrained in me. But it's a good thing. Obviously, I try not to overwork. But I think that being able to give exposure to soccer in general is amazing. And that's one thing that the Charlotte media has done so well, whether it's mainstream TV, Fox 46. They want to talk about soccer. The radio station that we're on is fantastic. They always want to make hits. And I think that that's not the case everywhere in the country. There's a lot of people that kind of turn their nose up at soccer. They don't think it's successful. They don't like MLS, but everyone's embraced us so much. If I can be that figure point, if I can come on and talk and help your average Joe fall in love with the game and create another fan, then I'm doing the best I can for that job.
At the same time, you're kind of educating your co-workers there at the flagship station.
Oh, it's taken some education. We've had a little bit of kickback from a couple of them, but they seem to be convinced at this point. And I think they're seeing that you can't deny that soccer deserves airtime. There's such a market for it in Charlotte. There's people that want us to talk about it. And that's a great thing, because, a lot of people associate Charlotte with NASCAR, with football, with the stereotypical Southern sports. But now when you're selling out a stadium, when you're getting 50,000+ on a weeknight to see Chelsea, when you're getting the 74,000 record breaking crowd, and week in, week out, whether it's a Wednesday or a Saturday, still getting 30,000+, you're seeing that it sells. Soccer sells tickets.
Jessica Charman, color voice for Charlotte FC, hanging out with us here at the Line Creek Brewing Company bus barn in Fayetteville. And frankly, it's good to actually see you for a change.
I still exist.
Because it's like when everybody from Atlanta came up for the match in Charlotte, literally it was like, I open the door, I see you and Will, I wave because you're getting close to being on air, close the door and go back because I know that you're busy. And that's about as close as I've been in saying hi and, goodness knows how long. But as this question that I have involving Will.
Oh, gosh.
Do you have to turn the volume down on your headset? Because there are some octaves that Will hits, especially in goal calls, where I worry about his pipes, because he'll hit some high notes.
Well, he doesn't eat before games so that he can prepare himself adequately.
Well, but the thing for me is that if I eat so far ahead of time.
Oh, no, Will fasts and has a throat spray. There's a whole preparation for his goal calls.
I was not aware of this.
It's a real commitment for Will.
But that's the thing, is that with the notes that he hits, I always worry about your ears.
Oh, there's times where my ears are ringing. I talk about it all the time. I'm worried about the LAFC game because it's 10:30 p.m. at night. Ooh. So trying to unwind to go to bed after you've had Will in your ears. There's a look I give my producer when I need it to go down a little bit. There's also a hand gesture for Will where it's just like, hey, let's slow it down. But he's so passionate. And I think that his passion and love for this team, because he's been involved since day 1-0, even he was in Charlotte, obviously, for the announcement of the club. And I think that he truly loves this team more than anybody that I've ever met. And I think what's really good about that is I'm able to offer a contrast to that passion, not because I don't feel the same way. I always want Charlotte FC to win, but I'm able to be sort of the level-headed, a bit of the bad guy sometimes in my color role, because I have to tell it as it is. And then he's able to offer the love, the passion, the excitement, and it's impossible not to feed off his excitement as well.
Well, but there's nothing wrong with good cop, bad cop in a booth.
No, you have to.
And there was one moment that sticks in my head about good cop, bad cop. It was the attempted Panenka in the Chelsea match, where literally all the keeper has to do is stand there and it just goes right to him. And you basically called the guy out.
It was disrespectful. If you're going to get it, I think my words were, if you're going to do that, you have to get it right. Otherwise, you look like an idiot.
Yes, because I ran that clip in one of the SDH morning updates because of the moment, not just because of your call, which was great. And it was, the humor that was attached to it and the frankness that was attached, but because of how it laid out, the magnitude of the moment, and a game that had moments in it where you got, one of the youngest guys out there drawing a PK and you get to advance a match like that. But the fact that you went bad cop, but at the same time, it wasn't bad because you called somebody out for doing something stupid.
Yeah, and I would look like a fool. Listen, the keeper did well. He did very well, Cisniega, because it's mind games, right? Penalties are all about mind games. If the goalie stands still, you look stupid if you don't dive and then they put it past you. So he did well to read that moment. But at the end of the day, it wasn't even a good Panenka attempt.
No.
It was horrendous. And I think there's a reason why it's been made into various GIFs, memes, everything. And that poor guy, I think it was Conor Gallagher, his name, probably has nightmares about that moment still because it's been put everywhere. And I have to tell it as it is. And I think what makes me so unique as a commentator is coming at things from a goalkeeper standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Hashtag GK Union.
Obviously, I understand the bigger picture and I understand the game as a whole. And I've dabbled in being a forward and all of that jazz. But I think coming at it from a goalkeeper's perspective and truly being able to break down what is a great save, what is a goalkeeping error, what is just, average is important, because a lot of the time when you even hear mainstream commentators talking about goalkeepers and breaking things down, they don't know in the same way as someone that's actually stood between the sticks.
So what you're saying is that someone who has played the game and actually played the position might know more than somebody who's just talking about it for
Yeah, but people like to pretend they know just as much just from their armchair, right?
I've never heard of this before. This is strange to me. Some of the favorite moments that you've had so far this season, other than the Chelsea match, and getting to call a match against a Premier League side.
Yeah, calling Chelsea, obviously, growing up in England, it was huge. I have so
You grew
many
up in
people-
England? What?
I like to hint on that a little bit. They can't tell, can they? But I think that was obviously huge because everyone back home understood the magnitude of it, and it helped that my dad was there. It was awesome to be able to bring him out on the pitch and share that moment with him. I think the first game against DC United was away. It was hard. It was a disappointing result, but still just taking that deep breath and realizing this is real. This is what I'm doing. Houston away, where we picked up our first away win because that had been so elusive. Atlanta United, the back and forth with Atlanta United across both games. Obviously, both teams have one victory in that challenge. I'll be interested to see if there's a tiebreaker coming up. But I think that was very special as well because it was a team that I knew so well, playing against the team that I've now fallen in love with in Charlotte. And I was so glad that it lived up to the expectation because there was so much talk about Atlanta United, Charlotte, rivalry. And what happened was two very close games, exciting games, heartbreaking in the first one from a Charlotte perspective, fantastic in the second one from a Charlotte perspective. But having those games come to life and having so much invested in the game from a personal standpoint was probably one of my highlights as well.
Jessica Charman, special guest, hanging out with us here tonight in Fayetteville at the Line Creek Brewing Company bus barn, answering a lot of questions that I have. See, I can go down a rabbit hole with you, and it would be difficult coming back out in time to bring Jason in to talk what you guys want to talk about. All right, so let me see if I remember everything. Clayton State, MOBA.
As in what I do?
Yeah, what you've been calling.
Okay.
Mercer.
I did some UTC Chattanooga.
Okay, Tennessee Chattanooga. So you got to call some of the SoCon. There you go.
NAIA with Georgia Gwinnett.
Right. Okay.
I did some Georgia Storm.
Right.
Here, there, everywhere. Atlanta United 2, obviously, where I got my with you.
I've
so
heard.
First
of that
professional
guy.
games, throwback.
Right.
Charlotte FC, whatever I can get my hands on, really. Now dabbling in coaching. Trinity School are about to get a fantastic coach. May I say it myself? Mm-hmm. It's going to be a wild run. Really excited to get back into that environment. Obviously, Soccer in the Streets is where I started. SSA, I did some coaching. Excited to now do it at the high school level with Trinity Soccer, and their program is very, very exciting. So I think that's going to be a wild ride come the spring. I get that.
Yeah, I know. Kenny Dallas, the head football coach, man knows how to cut a promo like nobody's business. So when you run into Coach Dallas, he'll cut a promo for you. He'll be good to go. But the reason I wanted to get that laundry list of things that you're doing, you've been able to see the game grow in the Southeast on a bunch of different levels. What has it been like for you from NAIA and collegiate to summer league and lower level leagues and lower divisions and Major League Soccer? What's it been like for you to see the growth here in the Southeast across the board that you were a part of on the Division II level as a player, but you're now getting to see it grow on all these different platforms?
I think it's really amazing to see. And, starting at the grassroots level with the Soccer in the Streets programs, with the Little League and all of those things, and seeing how diverse of a sport it is and how it's attracting people from all walks of life. And then watching it, like you say, at the collegiate level and seeing how we're attracting people from all over the world to come play here. Obviously, look at me. That's how I ended up in the States. And then seeing how invested people are at the USL League 2 level and how, the talent there is incredible. And there's so many more opportunities. And I'm delighted to see the growth of the women's game too with USLW League. And they're looking at bringing in a second-tier pro for women, which is so important because right now all you've got is NWSL. And I think that's a bit of a problem because there are so many talented females that don't just need a summer league. And that's no disrespect to USLW League. That's no disrespect to the other teams that are doing that. But you need another level of professional women's soccer to help grow and gravitate the game, which is what's doing so well on the men's side right now with MLS Next Pro and MLS coming in. It just seems like the growth is fantastic. And like you say, the South is taking over when it comes to the success rate, when it comes to how the fans are buying in. And when you have more and more people falling in love with the game as parents, as families, that means more kids are going to have the opportunity to be in the game. And I think what's really cool now is soccer isn't a sport that's turned up the nose in terms of parents. Parents want their kids in soccer lessons. They want their kids learning soccer because they're seeing how the opportunities can grow when you start with the ball at your feet at a young age.
Do you think of yourself, considering everything that you've been able to accomplish so far, player, now broadcaster, coach, do you consider yourself a role model in any way?
I'd hope so. Yeah, I'd really hope so. I think that's the biggest thing for me. I have a young daughter that I don't talk too much about, but I think that with her, it was a really difficult decision to take the Charlotte gig because I had to think about having a 1-year-old, being away from her, traveling all the time. But I wanted to make sure that she knew no matter what occasion you're in, you can achieve your dreams and you can fight for your dreams. So I had to take that opportunity because I want to teach her that, whatever you put your mind to, whatever dream you have, even if it's a stereotypical male job, let's be honest, most broadcasters are men, in radio in particular. Yeah. But I wanted to make sure she knew that I have to lead by example. And I think that I would like to think that more youngsters will look up to me because when I wanted to be a commentator, there weren't very many female voices at all, not at all. There was Jackie Oatley pretty much, and she has only really recently got onto the main stage, of course. There was Rebecca Lowe was working, but not in a commentator role. I didn't hear female voices. I just didn't. And so many people at Charlotte have messaged me saying it's so refreshing to not only hear a female voice, but to hear a knowledgeable voice. And I think that's what I want to be. I want to be the best commentator, not the best female commentator. But I also want young girls, young guys to see this is normal. This isn't an exception because I had to overcome adversity and overcome, not having voices or people that look like me in this, but other people won't have to do that as much now.
And the fact that you are one of these trailblazers.
I love that word. Get me a t-shirt with that on.
I'm a trailblazer. I enjoy seeing you plowing the road the way that you are up there in Charlotte, and with what you're doing in the other divisions with all the other stuff that you're doing. And like I said, that was one of the reasons why I wanted to lay out for everybody.
I think it's really important, and I love that Jason does that too. You guys, you're never too good for any level of soccer. Just because I've done MLS now, I care so much about the collegiate game. I care so much about the lower divisions, and I have just as much fun calling even maybe more fun in some ways. Oh goodness,
You got a light now. Cool.
Even more so in some ways because you're able to relax, have a little bit of fun. It's a little lower pressure, and I think it's so important to give the eye and turn the audience on that level of the game as well.
Do you get stopped on the street, like when you're going into Bank of America? Do you get,
Yeah, there's been a few selfies. It's really uncomfortable. The worst part about I'll go down on the pitch and people will ask for pictures, but the thing is they sit so much higher.
They're like 12 feet ahead of you. They're like
and
above you.
And the only way you can get them in is by you have to hold it really low, and it's so unattractive. And you're on someone else's phone.
Because it's all about angles.
Yeah, and it's just, I'm like, I don't look like this. So you don't want to say no because you don't want to be that snob that's like, I don't want a picture with you. But it's a horrible angle. So I would rather people ask me to take pictures when I'm walking down the street with them because it's not reflective. And I'll see them post it on social media and they'll be like, retweet. And I'm like, I don't want to retweet that picture of me.
It's all about angles. And it's like
it's got to be from a high angle, but you can't do that when they're 6 foot above you.
Yeah,
it's
all
I appreciate it. Everyone is so nice. Everyone has welcomed me with open arms. And I think they see that I'm genuinely passionate about giving them the best version of myself as a commentator.
It's all about the angles, making sure that you make sure that all the angles are there and that
it's heartbreaking because you can work so hard at the gym, but if you put a phone below you at an arm's length, it's going to look like you never worked out a day in your life.
It looks like you stole somebody's chin strap from a football helmet and you decided to attach it to the bottom of your
start
face.
Doing the old school pose with my hands across my face to cover it.
Let's go. You go thinker. You kind of sit there and you try to cover things up. But I'm going to wait for that particular conversation to stop so we can tag out.
He's just too popular.
He is. He's incredibly popular. Well, it's just tagging out. But see, now that's the first half with me and Jess. And so now it's time for Jason to tag in. And this one, when Jason came up with this particular idea for the two of you, I thought it was fun. So you're gonna come in this way. He's gonna come in the other way and tag in. You're walking. There you go.
Jason sits down in a glorious manner, pulling out the chair from
It's
underneath
really
him.
not that exciting.
So there you go. Tagging out, having fun. The story continues with Jason and Jess.
All right. We're gonna try something a little different here because I think we've both interviewed and been the interviewee talking about the game. So we're going to do a little bit of both of that. We are going to take questions from everybody who is here tonight, everybody who's watching on Twitch as well. So you can send those in. We'll get those at the end of the show. But we're going to ask each other random questions.
And I wasn't prepped on this like 5 minutes ago, so I have no idea.
Crazy things happen. I'm dealing with long COVID, Jess. My brain is all over the place right now. So it's an idea. It might work. It might not work. We'll find out. But what I wanted to start with was let's take Charlotte and Atlanta out of the equation. Who is your favorite player to watch in MLS right now?
Okay, so he's brand new, but
Okay.
I'm just in love with Cucho Hernandez. I just think there's something so special about him. Obviously, the Colombian Association has me very biased.
There is that.
But he's just a magician. And I think what's so incredible is that the league's been able to attract a player that was successful in the Premier League, that is completely and utterly not even in his prime, hasn't reached his prime yet, and is now coming out and dominating in MLS. And I think that he's such an exciting young talent, and it just shows the growth of a league as a whole, and I think that he is one of those players that is just proving that this isn't a retirement league no longer.
Yeah, I think the guys you're seeing coming into this league this summer with Ricky Booch, with leave the Chiellinis and Bales and that side of it out, which are crazy in and of themselves, but the young guys coming through. And I was thinking about this, and we talked about it a little bit before Charlotte's last game because we compare notes on teams when we see teams.
It's helpful.
And,
we have little phone calls here and there. What did you think?
And this last week was crazy. We did not do that when Atlanta and Charlotte played, by the way. That wasn't going to happen.
There were no secrets shared.
No, none of that. But this past week it worked out because we were in Chicago, and then Chicago went to Charlotte the next week. And a player I mentioned that I'd love to get your thoughts on is Brian Gutierrez.
I'm so mad. Well, from a Charlotte perspective, I'm glad, but I was mad that he didn't start.
Yeah, he's a guy who, in my opinion, should start for them. He's been really good when he does, but he's another one of these young teenagers in this league, and he's a homegrown, developed one that if you go beneath the surface, if you go beneath the all-star team, if you go beneath the headlines, there's so many young guys in this league that are amazing to watch right now. And Gutierrez is one of the most creative players in the league in my mind.
And so confident. We only got to see maybe 15 minutes of him, but he has this fearlessness about taking players on. And I think that's something about young players, right? I remember being that kid playing with older players, and you're fearless. You don't know what it's like to fail yet.
You don't
because
know
you've
that
had
you don't
such
know.
you've had such a successful uprun. Think about it. If you're a teenager and you're playing in MLS, you've obviously had a lot of things go right for you.
Yeah.
And I think he's coming in, he's fearless. He takes players on. Our fullbacks have been a little bit of an issue here and there with our team. So it was a very dangerous combination with him. But I think that I just love how the league is developing and we're moving away. And it breaks my heart a little bit because college is a huge part of my life. And I love the collegiate game.
Yep.
But we're getting to the stage now as academies progress, as MLS Next Pro comes in, as the second teams. You've seen it with Atlanta United too and the success they had. I'm very excited that Charlotte's getting the MLS Next Pro team. We're seeing a way with college for a lot of players that are going to make it pro because you don't need to go and spend 4 years out there anymore.
It's interesting because I think what you're seeing, the guys who come through college and make it, we've watched it firsthand here in Atlanta this year with Aidan Mcfadden. You know, Aidan Mcfadden was a third-round draft pick, if I remember right, out of Notre Dame, and he was an attacker in college, but he wasn't going to make it as an attacker in MLS. But he put in the work to change his position and become a right back. And
that's what college buys you. It buys you some time at a different level to experiment.
Could he have made that change at 18? Probably not.
And I've lost count of how many players I played with in college that signed as forwards, signed as midfielders, ended up as fullbacks, ended up even as center backs sometimes. And I think that the college has a role, don't get me wrong, for the players. Look at Charlotte. You've got Ben Bender, number 1 draft pick, that's played very well.
Really impressive.
Still young, you can tell, but has a huge future ahead of him. My favorite, though, is Quinn Mcneil, who's only just slotted in. Unpicked draft. So he didn't make it through the draft, but came out of Clemson and has been brilliant recently. And I think you've got to have a coach, a special coach, to trust rookies. It takes a very willing coach. And I think what I've been proud of from Latanzio's perspective for Charlotte FC is he protects those players. He plays them at the right time. He takes them off when things aren't going well for them. Because with young players, it's such a key part of their career that you have the potential to make or break a young player.
Yep. Your turn for a question.
Who is the player that you're most proud of seeing the development during Atlanta United, probably from the twos into the first team?
I mentioned McFadden, and I mean, this year, him getting that opportunity, and it's not how you want to get it. I mean, it's the craziest situation out of a year that's had full of crazy situations with injuries. But to be in the midst of the pregame in Toronto and look down and see Brooks Lennon being carried off the field and trying to figure out what happened, and he hits a mat on the side of the field and does his knee. I mean, such a weird fluke injury. McFadden had no time to really prepare himself to come in. He stayed out when the team went in for their last team talk. He stayed out to warm up. They do the anthems. Before they take the team picture, he's getting a couple more sprints in, trying to get ready. And he's been really good since coming in.
Do you think that being thrown in the deep end like that actually helped him, though? Because sometimes, at least for me, that was how I made my senior debut as well for Watford. I showed up, had no clue I was going to play, and was told literally in the dressing room, hey, you're starting. It helped me because I didn't psych myself out.
I think for the debut, it can. I think, you hit a wall a little bit after that when you become a regular, and it's like, whoa, this is new. This is different. I think Aidan's handled it really well. Caleb Wiley, obviously, has been a blast to watch. And, he's one that he had to get thrown in at the deep end because of the injuries. He's got to play. And Andrew Gutman goes down, and Wiley's getting games. And Wiley has had the ups and downs that you'd expect from a teenager. But the ups for him, Caleb Wiley's a potential national team left back. I mean, he's got that ability. He's probably at his age right now further along at the same age that George Bello was. When Bello was Wiley's age now, I think Wiley is much further along than where Bello is. And we know what's happened with George. Caleb has a couple more years to get to where George was when he went to the Bundesliga. So
I think it's hard sometimes when you watch players like that play, you forget how young they are.
Yeah.
It's the same when you look at a lot of Charlotte FC squad. Sometimes you're just so surprised that they're not older because the way that they're playing and their style of play and their build, even physicality wise.
who's the player for Charlotte that you've enjoyed watching their development from first game to now?
Well, firstly, I'm heartbroken because I'd want to say Guzman Corujo, who has just had his ACL test.
Yeah.
So you guys know all about
Oh, we know
from
about
Atlanta
injuries
United
and
for a second.
ACLs and Achilles and
That's going to be a huge, huge loss.
Yeah.
But I think for me, Bram Bronico, because he was a player that I wasn't sure was going to play much. Didn't set my world on fire when I saw him signed, but he has been the best number 6 that this side could have ever asked for. And he's a fantastic guy off the pitch as well, but on the pitch, he's a warrior. And I think what's so interesting is under Latanzio, he has seen more progress going forward with the implement of Quinn Mcneil in there, who has a bit more defensive mind. He's been able to go forward. So now we're seeing him on the opposite side of the ball. We knew he had it defensively.
Yep.
We knew that he was going to be able to be that little bit of nasty streak, the smart player with good distribution. But now we're seeing him on the opposite end of pitch, hitting the crossbar. Like he hasn't yet found the goal. I think Willie P will cry when he scores.
Oh, yeah. He's definitely going to cry when that happens.
That's his boy.
That's his boy?
That's his boy. That's he calls him the mayor, and he's really hoping it's going to stick on. I cannot get myself to say it, but I hope for Willie P's sake that one day that nickname sticks because it will make him a very proud man.
God, Brant Bronico scores. I think Will's going to hit a new octave that has not been heard
No
by
one will
humans
hear
yet.
it, just the dogs.
Yeah, the Dolphins maybe. Okay, let's change the subject a little bit. So England on the women's side get a major trophy.
Yep. Thank God. Thank God.
We watched the 2019 semifinal, and I've said it every time. England was a better team. They were so close in that tournament.
And I was a fantastic sport for still doing a podcast.
Yeah.
With a broken heart.
Yes, I know. So what has changed for England now? Why did they get over the hump?
I think managerially, and that's no disrespect to Neville, but we know we've got a better manager right now that understands her players, that motivates her players. I think you see the connection with the players as well. There's just a different level of understanding between them. And I think that we've got the right mix now of youth and that fearlessness that we talked about, and that almost a little bit of cockiness that's able to step in to have that sort of source to take some of the shots that we've taken. But you've also still got that experience in that line. You've got the Millie Brights. You've got players that are able to lead with experience. And I think that now the sky's the limit, because that was a huge win psychologically for this side, particularly with how it went down, how we were able to, pick up that late winner and change the game and the mindset. Because I think if it had gone to penalties and we'd have lost that, I can't even imagine from an England perspective, if your men and your women both lose on pens in the final, I think that would have been a dark tunnel for English soccer, quite frankly. So I'm really glad they stepped it up. And I think now the sky's the limit because they're playing with a fearlessness. There's not going to be a huge turnover for players for a very long time, quite frankly. And I think that we are now in a position where we're really challenging the US. And I think it might help the US in a lot of ways, because now it's going to put you into a position where you know that you're no longer this powerhouse on your own pedestal, right?
Yep.
There's other teams that are up and around, and Europe as a whole. Look at the level of the Euros. There are so many teams in there now that have quality because they're investing in their professional leagues. And to touch on that with the USLW League, I find it so interesting now, though, how many of those players that were stars in USLW League are signing professional contracts, but they're going over to Europe.
Yeah.
And it's very telling. And I was talking to John about it, how there's not that second level of professional women's soccer. And I know that USL is
finally
planning
coming
it,
next year.
and
we'll
I
see
really
how
hope
long
it works.
takes.
But I think that it's very telling that those stars of American soccer are now going to Europe, where it always used to be that we would go over here.
I mean, we're seeing it kind of all over the place right now. The women's game is just fascinating to me at the moment, because you've got the investment that's happening in Mexico with it, and you've got U.S. players, or you got players who developed here going to Mexico to play for big clubs. You've got the big clubs really making a big deal of it. You've got what we saw last year from Barcelona, wonderful team to watch, just amazing football to watch. Spain in the Euros, Spain and England. That was a blast.
Even Copa
to
America,
watch.
though.
Yeah.
I've watched a lot of Copa America
100%.
Femenina, and the level. And there's a long way to go in Latin America in
Yeah.
terms of investment in the game.
Yep.
You saw the Colombian team in their protest, only making $17, a week or whatever playing soccer. Like, it's foul. But the level, and when I go to Colombia now, it's normal to see a woman playing soccer.
Yeah.
And that progress is huge.
It's
and that's
changing
what
so
you
fast.
need. And that's it, the speed of the development. And I think the next World Cup's going to be a whirlwind, because we talked about it previously before the last World Cup about how the gaps were getting smaller between the good and the middle and the bad. Well, I think it's, exponentially getting closer and closer now.
I don't think the U.S. can show up at the next World Cup and play like they did in 19 and win. I think the individual talent gap is not what it used to be. There's some players from other countries that are as talented as the best U.S. players, and you can't just play direct and outrun people anymore. The athleticism isn't there either.
Everyone is a pro, and it used to be that the U.S. players had that extra fitness because they were professionals. They were training every single day. Well, now you're playing against teams where everyone on that team is training every day, has the same physicality, and let's be honest, Route 1 soccer is very predictable by the end of it. Once you figure it out, once you know who you have to stay with, it becomes very predictable. And I think that the U.S. has a lot of talent. We can't deny that. But you're also going through a generational switch with players as well. And will those younger players be ready to have that torch handed over them, per se?
Yeah, it's even the college game. Like, we've seen it on the men's side for a while here with internationals coming in and making up a large part of rosters. But, I'm getting ready to call Georgia State games. And I saw Georgia State play Truett McConnell in an exhibition on Monday. And the players that jumped out to me for Georgia State are Spanish. And the middle of Georgia State's team, we'll see what the lineups end up looking like, but they could have a Spaniard at center back, the number 10, and the number 9. And that's crazy at a U.S. university now, that you're going to get Spanish players who are amazingly technical. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch.
And it's exciting because they play with that style of soccer. And for the American kids around that sort of play, though, you're going to learn something new. And I think that's what I enjoyed most about my collegiate experience, was playing with people from all different countries and taking a little bit from their game, whether it was the physicality from the Scandinavians, because in women's soccer, Scandinavians are monsters, to put it politely.
Yes.
Or the little ticky-tacky of the Spanish players, or the Latin Americans, the physicality or the speed of the Americans, the sort of soccer IQ of the English, because I feel like we have our level-headed shoulders. And it was amazing to see that mishmash of different cultures come together. And that's where the collegiate game, I think, still has that level of fascination. And I don't think it will be, destroyed by MLS seeing that they can cultivate players in other ways.
Yeah, I think you're going to see MLS and the NWSL still need the college game and still need, some of these players who maybe weren't ready to turn pro at 18, needed a little bit of time, maybe 4 years, maybe less. We'll just have to wait and see. Your turn for a question. I figured this would happen. We'd go off on tangents.
Pre-game routine.
Pre-game routine. It changes depending on the results. Like, I'm very superstitious. So, I will.
Lucky hat, lucky socks, or.
I will change things up. The Maradona socks were worn during Andrew Gutman's Golasso, so they're probably going to make the trip to Cincinnati. The hat will usually stay with good results. I've got enough hats in the rotation that'll change it up. But yeah, just little things like it depends. Home and away is different. I mean, away you don't have as much control over things. You never know what time you have to get there. If it's a booth we've been in before, or somewhere where we've never been, and not knowing how it will go. Chicago was completely different because I was by myself and figuring out just where I was going to be and setting things up. At home, usually I like to get in the booth 2 hours before we're on air at the latest. I like to get in there a little bit earlier and just be able to sit down, have my notes mostly done. Not all the way done, because I want to do a few last minute things while I'm there, beyond getting the lineups and stuff like that. But I want to get into the booth and have a little time to focus, get something to eat, and then have time to read through my notes before we go on air. I think what I've started doing lately that maybe it's just because of how I've been feeling and kind of trying to be prepared, is I've tried to, each of our segments in pregame, kind of not have it. The solo game I did, I had it scripted. Like I had bullet points, but I knew exactly where I wanted to go. Yeah, like it's hard. But even, when it's Mike and I, like I try to have the bullet points of what I want to hit in each segment and just be prepared for that. Have you stuck to what you thought your routine would be?
No.
That's how
everything has changed.
That's how mine went. I knew what I wanted to do, and then it was different.
It doesn't work. It just doesn't always work for me. And I found myself almost, because I used to be so specific about every single player, and then I would find myself almost freaking out. So now I like to be more generic. I still have my key players I want to talk about from a Charlotte FC perspective, but I like to see more big picture stuff, more big stories, those kind of things. And my favorite thing I've added, I mean, let's be honest, I have a 4-hour each way commute. I listen to a lot of podcasts about the team because I feel like it gets me a sense of how the fans are feeling of the opposition team. It gives me a perspective. I listen to one sort of fan-based one sort of more professional produced one. And it gives me a real sense of how is the vibe. And I love listening to their pre-game ideas, like a couple of days before the game, because it gives you a sense of how they are taking this game. For instance, LAFC podcast, score prediction, 6-1 LAFC. Ooh. So that is something that I then get the vibe. Okay, there's complacency slipping in. There's fans that truly think this is going to be a whitewash. Right. But why do they think that? And then it allows me to create these sorts of questions to guide my stage of thinking, because I think that it's all well and good knowing every single detail about every single player, but that's almost sometimes play-by-play related. Yeah. It's what Will's going to need to say. I need to know, why are they in this position? Why are they the best player for this position? And I think that's really helped me find the way I want to speak about players.
Yep. It's a funny thing, and I took something from, I can't remember who said it, but it was about Larry King, the old CNN interviewer, and he talked about how he didn't want to know everything about the person he was going to interview. He wanted to know enough to be able to have the conversation, but he wanted to come at it like a viewer would. And
that's the way I want to be, because if I know everything about Gareth Bale, I'm going to be so blinded by Gareth Bale that even if he does a garbage job on the pitch, I'm almost going to have in the back of my head, no, he can't be garbage. Right. The same as on a bad player. Oh, this has to be his weakness. He has to be bad at this, because if he does it good, I'm not going to be able to say, actually, he did that well.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a balance. It's a balancing act. What's been the number one thing for you that you have to do to prepare for a game?
Watch games of them. I love to watch games because you're able, and not just highlights. I like to watch extended highlights if I'm really strapped for time, but a full game if possible, because I love to be able to tell the story, because so often highlights are very restricted. You don't get the full sense of it. A team might have hit the crossbar 3 times, only 1 time gets shown in the highlight reel. Yeah. So watching a game and really understanding them, and I'm very active on my notepad during the game, that kind of thing. And now I think the podcast as well, because it helps me get in the mindset. I'm driving up at 7 a.m. in the morning, getting ready to get ready. And that switches my game into, okay, it's game mode. Let's go kind of thing.
That's funny. I almost work backwards. Like I like to start with stats and highlights. So I've got the very surface view of a team. Then I like to dig into maybe the extended highlights and sequences in games. If I get to watch a whole game, like in a perfect situation, I'm watching the team play the week before, because the timing works
perfectly when they play on a Sunday.
Yeah,
I love when I drive home
and
I can sit down Sunday 4 p.m. and watch them and tweet out a few things and remind the fans, hey, let's watch this game together kind of thing.
That's always the best. It doesn't always happen, but I like to have some of the picture drawn before I watch. If it's a team I haven't seen, or they got a new manager or whatever, like now it's interesting for me, and you'll get this, like you get to know the teams and the managers and how they play, and your prep changes. It's a little bit more of like current events than I don't need to watch. I'm trying to think of who the one would be right now. I don't need to watch Sporting Kansas City play at the moment because I need to see who's playing because they have so many injuries. But I know they're going to be in a 4-3-3. I know what Peter Vermes wants to do. I understand what he wants. The Red Bulls, I understand how they're going to play.
Ugh.
Philadelphia, yes, thank you. I know what they're going to do. I don't want to watch that because I don't want to bang my head against the wall for 90 minutes. It's so bad. It's so bad. But I know what they're going to do. So I need to know, okay, this guy's playing right now. What does he bring differently? That kind of stuff.
Okay.
And we're going to take questions from you guys out there in just a couple of minutes. So if you have them, start thinking of them. Hit the QR code at your tables. And if you're on Twitch, we'll start to get to you too.
What went through your mind before your first match? Because you had it a little different of a journey to me. For those that don't know, you weren't a commentator really.
I called one
game.
One game in my life, and I got the call that I would be doing games for Atlanta United on the third. Well, I got the call Wednesday. I think it became final on Thursday. The game was Sunday.
I thought mine was fast.
Yeah, it was something. It was also fast that I didn't really have time, honestly, to think about it. It's weird. I mean, I followed the team. We'd started SDH by that point, so I was talking about the team on a regular basis. I knew how the team came together. I knew how Tata Martino wanted them to play. I'd seen the preseason, so I was prepared. Like I wasn't worried about that. They were playing the Red Bulls. We knew how the Red Bulls wanted to play. I got that. So I wasn't worried about those aspects of it. Just the nature of it. Because I met Adam, who was our play-by-play commentator for the first year. I met Adam that day.
That's rough.
We talked the day before, but I met him in person that day. And it was just so crazy because, this was my hometown team, and 55,000 people at Bobby Dodd, and everybody's in jerseys, and it's insane. And I have to block that out to a degree to do the job that I'm trying to figure out how to do. So it was a wild experience. What I'll remember the most about that, the game's a blur. The first game, like from my perspective, a complete and utter blur. I couldn't tell you really anything about individual moments in that game. What I'll always remember is sitting in the parking deck for about an hour afterwards, just decompressing, because I was so focused and worried about screwing it up and not really knowing what I was doing yet, that just when it was done, I felt like a piano fell off my back. It was just the weirdest feeling.
I think it's so fascinating how we had different journeys to the same path, but you still feel the same emotions. I think for me as well, it was that moment of, oh my goodness, this is real. I'm doing this. And it's been what I've been waiting for so long. But I think it's just, I thought I had it fast, with your phone call, but that was a wild day. My parents were leaving to go home to England. I got the phone call from you. And I remember just telling my dad, hey, there's a chance I'm going to be an MLS commentator. And it was just the maddest thing in the world. And it just happened quickly. And we weren't sure. And I didn't want to get my hopes up. And it was all this emotional roller coaster. But there was a minute when I just realized, okay, this is real. This is happening. And it's just surreal. But like you say, I don't remember anything about that first game.
Yeah, I couldn't tell
apart
you.
From the goal that wasn't.
Oh, yeah, there's that. I was watching that first game and listening to you and Will sitting in the charter terminal in Colorado. The first home game for you guys. I think it was that, wasn't it?
LA Galaxy?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think you listened to the first one too, because I remember
the first away game I was listening. Yeah,
that was DC.
The home game is the one that we were sitting there in the floor in the airport terminal waiting to take off and listening to you guys.
Because commentators get put on the floor, the players get the chairs.
Yes, there weren't many chairs. So there were players on the floor too, but I wasn't taking a chair at that point. No, I'm not taking. I'm not taking.
Hey Joseph, can I have your chair?
I'm not taking Brad or Joseph's chair. No, not happening. Not happening. Just get out of the way. All right, we got some questions there, Scott.
I do. Where do you want me to go?
I don't care. What do you have?
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't really want you to have my mic that's been that close to my face. Long COVID.
I've tested negative so many times, and I still feel like crap. So you don't have anything to worry about with me.
Is it not on?
There you go. All right, we've got some good ones here.
What we got?
Some I can't talk specifics for you too.
Oh,
by the way.
Lord.
I know, right?
Uh-oh.
But the first one's a really good one, and it actually is for you.
Okay.
Seeing the attendance at the Women's Euro Cup, and I don't know who played in that. Who played in that again? Whatever.
England won it.
Something like that.
It'll be okay.
Nothing else matters.
What do you? I love that song. What are you excited most about for next year's Women's World Cup?
I think just carrying on that momentum. I think that I'm excited about the years and the build up and how now this attendance was incredible, but it doesn't mean jack shit if you don't then build on it, to put it bluntly. I think you have to say that, because
That is accurate.
if we just have this amazing ride and then don't invest in grassroots soccer in England, don't encourage girls to be playing at the young age, don't give them this motivation to continue, because we already know the dropout rates of girls in high school soccer in England, in the US, is horrendous because we're not encouraged or we're not enabled in the same way. So I think that I'm excited about the World Cup as long as we do everything right before then, as long as we're investing in grassroots women's soccer, as long as we're, taking the right steps to make access possible for the younger generation, because it was really emotional, quite frankly, when we won that, because for me, a girl that was told that she had a parent right into the school saying, hey, she shouldn't be playing on the team. I'm scared she's going to get hurt because I was playing in a boys team,
Right.
because there was no girls team.
Yeah.
For me to then see how many people were turning out and to see the overwhelming positivity. Yes, there was still the odd troll, but the positivity and people speaking about the women's game so positively was incredible. But it doesn't mean anything if we don't build on that. If we do, I think the World Cup's going to be the most competitive that we've ever seen it. I think that we're going to see huge viewing numbers on TV in person. And I think we're going to see a lot of surprises, because every country in the world right now, in terms of the soccer countries, are investing in the game in different ways.
Very early Women's World Cup semifinal predictions. Who are the final four?
U.S.
England versus the U.S.
I think England and the U.S. will be in the final four. Who are the other two?
So we're going to have a
Spain.
rematch from
Might not play each
Friday.
other. It might be the final.
Spain and Sweden. I think
I
Sweden.
think Spain. I'm with you on Spain.
I'm going with Sweden because I think this was a huge wake-up call for them, getting blasted by England. Blasted, obliterated.
Yeah.
I think we'll see managerial
was-
changes.
ooh.
I think we'll see changes in personnel, but I think that they still have potential, and that's why they were ranked so highly coming in.
I'm with you on Spain. They're the team outside of the U.S. that I probably enjoy watching the most. But I'm going to go Canada instead of Sweden.
Okay. Yeah, Canada looked good against you.
Yeah.
Took
yeah.
a penalty.
Yeah.
Took a penalty.
Canada's good. Canada's good. This U.S. group, I'm still not 100% sure. Play Trinity Rodman all the time and let her do her thing. That's
Do
my
you
number
think
one.
he knows his best 11?
No, I think he's probably has to play some political games too, because you have some star power there, and then you have some young players who should be playing, and it's tough. And then you have somebody like Alex Morgan who, has completely remade her career and is killing it right now. But there's a lot of other really good forwards too. So which one's going to be the best fit? Rodman to me is the best player and the most potentially impactful one, and I'd build around that.
Real quick, let me piggyback off this road. Not to dwell on this too much longer, because we do have quite a few questions, but let me ask you this. For the longest time here in the United States, it's obvious, and we all know that the United States women's team on a national level has been clearly outperforming the men's team on the national level, and all relative.
Different games,
right?
different competition.
Games, but you know where I'm going. So now the English women's team wins the Euros. And for the longest time, we've been waiting for England in a World Cup or, something like. How do you feel in England that translates right now? Like, what do you feel is the real consensus of the fan in England around this happening? Does it carry the day the same way?
Yeah, I think I've seen a lot of funny memes, and my favorite is just about how a man will say that he's going to do something, and then the woman still does it anyway. Like, hey, I've got this for you. So I love that. I think that it has the same weight in a lot of ways because everyone was watching. Look at the attendance for that game. Look at the TV viewing.
The TV was wild.
And it was incredible that they were able to do that. I do think now it puts weight on the shoulders of the men's team.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing. And I think it's good that those men are held accountable to the same way, to the same level. And something I found refreshing was the amount of men that were vocally supporting. On the men's team, you saw Jordan Henderson. You saw the guys wearing the women's jerseys. And there seems for the first time to be real camaraderie between the two teams and a little bit more respect there mutually. But I think the women have made the expectations for the men. And we all know how expectations are over in England during cup competitions.
Yeah, and then this one's going to get a little interesting with a first-round matchup on
Black Friday.
We'll be doing something on Black Friday for that.
Kind of a big deal.
A little bit of a
We
big deal.
predicted it. I wish I was a gambling person because I knew the way that pot was going to draw.
Yeah, you knew it was going to happen.
All right. This is for everybody. What do you think of the chances of Atlanta and Charlotte making the playoffs, and how far can each go?
Both of them making it?
It's one or other, guys.
I don't know if it's one or the other.
I
There's
think it
so
will be a seventh
many.
spot, though. If one of us is making it, it's in the seventh spot.
It could go up to 5. I think 1 through 4 is pretty well established. 5 down to what? 13, 12?
Everyone but DC United, right?
Yeah, and maybe they get into it. I don't think so, but maybe.
Rudy time.
Everybody else is like the same, basically, and it's who's going to get hot. I think
we've got a tougher schedule, at least coming up.
We've got a tough schedule too, but I think the biggest difference between where Atlanta and Charlotte are, and I'm not being a homer in this
the road
one.
schedule?
No, it's Atlanta's getting guys back from injury
That's
right
true.
now, and Charlotte now has to deal without Carujo.
But you're also able to pick up points on the road, whereas we only have
We haven't got that many points on the
more
road.
than
Hopefully
us,
that changes
though, right?
Saturday.
More than us.
That's true. That's true. But you guys have been better at home.
I think
so.
losing Guzman Carujo was one of those moments that was just deflating because he has been the best defender, the leader. He's a player that we realistically need. And the issue we have is, and it's no disrespect to our other options, but you're going to now most likely be playing Christian Fuchs at center back, who's a great leader, a great, experienced player. But is he going to be able to control the likes of Gareth Bale against LAFC, against the top quality opponents you're going to have? And like you say, that's a key loss for Charlotte FC.
It's a huge one. I mean, it's the worst time too, because, the flip side is what we're dealing with here, where you're getting guys back and you have some tough lineup decisions, but you have options. You don't have a lot of center back options.
No, and I think that the new signings are great that we have,
Yeah,
but it's how
really good
quick
moves.
are you going to get your visas in?
Right.
Is it going to be too little, too late? And I think that Chicago loss may well come back to haunt us. If we don't make playoffs, that will be the moment I look at, along with Inter Miami away with the 2-0 lead, giving that up. Those are games that I look at, and I just think it's disappointing, but it is what it is.
It's been a great first year for Charlotte. No question. I didn't expect it.
I listened to your podcast.
Well, some changes had to be made, and they were eventually.
Jason officially said that he felt sorry for me having to commentate this team.
At the beginning? Yeah, because you didn't have a winger on the roster. And you needed wingers. And then there was a managerial change, and then you actually signed some players.
I think I've been able to get a lot of experience of a lot of different scenarios in our first season, though.
It's the nature
It's been a
of it.
learning year for everybody. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's not
everybody
really.
on Atlanta United has been hurt at some point in time, including the person sitting right next to us.
Alan Franco has not. He's the last one left. Hosechu was right there. Like, seriously, Hosechu started 18 games. That was our second most starts. Now he gets hurt. He's going to miss it probably a game, maybe a couple. Alan Franco is the last man standing who hasn't been injured for at least some period of time.
Who's the curse? Who's the curse? Are you cursing people?
I got hurt much
You got
later. I'm
some
not the
voodoo
curse. No, it's not me. I don't know what the curse is. Man, I had nothing to do with it because it hit me worse than maybe it's hit some people. Ugh. What do we got? Questions?
Okay, so this person writes, in my opinion,
Okay.
having Andrew Gutman and Brooks Lennon back in the squad improves our chances to qualify for the playoffs. In your opinion, what does Atlanta United and Gonzalo Pineda have to do to qualify?
The biggest thing is settle on the best 11 with the most important defensive substitution off the bench, the most important attacking substitution off the bench. So 13 to 15 deep and nail it down and not have any of them get hurt, which is a really big concern this year. You've got to build some continuity, and you haven't been able to this season because I think the sense I got in a perfect world with the talent that he had at his disposal at the beginning was figure it out in the first half, nail down who his go-to guys are, and that plays the second half. Well, he hasn't been able to do that. So now he's going to have to go a little bit by gut feeling with Gutman and with Lennon coming back, and when they're ready to come back fully, and that means Wiley and Mcfadden go to different roles. He's got to figure out the attacking side, with Joseph Martinez, with Ronaldo Cisneros, with Moreno, with Almada, with Araujo. Can you play all 5 of them? Probably not. So who sits, and when do they sit, and why do they sit? And that's, you're figuring out on the fly, because the time when you would have been able to answer those questions internally and try this lineup here and try this lineup here, that's gone. You're at a point now where you got to trust your gut, and you got to settle on your 13 to 15 that can get you to the postseason.
Yeah, if we're going to get there, this is going to be Pineda trying, and I don't want to say pulling the rabbit out of the hat, but he's got, to me, such a difficult job trying to figure out the right, and this is just layman's speaking, but trying to figure out the right formation that's going to consistently
Formation's overrated.
And so it is, but it's
the personnel.
In formation, though, I also mean what you're saying, the right combination of players.
Like an arguing couple right now.
I've told him
shut up.
Every single time we talk about it, formation's overrated. The biggest thing is, can you play 2 center backs or 3? Do you play 2 up top or 1? And I think it's going to be 1. I think we've got that answer. That's what works best. But he wants to play 2 center backs because it gives you 1 more attacker. When you play 3 center backs, you have to sacrifice 1 of those attackers, probably 2 with that group. So it's just going to be tough. It's more personnel, because you go back to that game where Peralta played right back in Chicago. That worked. It was a 4-3-3, but it was a very different 4-3-3 than other times. It's about the personnel at this point. He's got to get 15 guys that he can count on to get to the postseason.
Every game. Yeah, and that's
for the 13.
Game.
Yeah, you got it's going to change a little bit. I mean, and Charlotte will be the same way, because you'll have somebody who gets banged up, you'll have somebody gets hot. Like, you'll have a little bit of room. That's why I say 15 guys. Like, you've got to have an impactful defensive sub and an impactful offensive sub, and maybe it's somebody different one game versus the next, but you've got to settle on that core group.
Well, and I know when we've spoken with some of the folks at United, like, Campbell is not a long-term thing. He'll be back fairly quickly, but outside
Campbell's
of him,
quicker. I think at this
when
point.
When is Hyndman? Is Hyndman back at all, even regular season?
I don't know. I think Campbell should be back before Hyndman. Lennon is right there, and I think that's it with guys coming back that are coming back.
Yeah, or Hernandez.
He's been in the 18.
Yeah.
He's been in the game days, so he's back. Just, can he start? Probably not yet.
All right, we got to get Jessica out of here. She's got things to do, Jason.
Yes.
Jesus. All right, so good one. Will Brandon Vasquez be called up to the national team?
Oh, that's a tough one.
Not yet, I don't think.
In a normal World Cup scenario, yes, because he would get an extended period of time to earn a spot.
It's just too soon.
They're going to have to call him up for September, and he's going to have to outperform other guys in 2 games. And
he doesn't have long enough to prove
I don't think he
himself
does.
for me. And I mean, he's been great. And we were talking about it off air, how he has grown so much, and no one could have predicted the player that he's become right now, and deservedly in the MLS All-Star game. A little disappointed that he only got the 15-minute cameo, but that's the nature of the beast.
He should have played 90. He should have played 90. Luciano Acosta should have played 90, and then they should have rested this weekend.
Yeah, it would have been nice for you.
That would have been great.
But I think it'll be very difficult for him at this point to really break into that.
It'll take one more injury. Like, DK's hurt again. He's missing time. If Pifok or Ferreira goes down and gets hurt, then yeah, I think he'd be next in line.
He's like first in line, like you said.
Yeah, he's a wild card because he's just never played with the group. I just don't think he has the time. I'm with you on that. Yes.
Who starts in goal for the U.S. game 1 in Qatar?
Oh, because Matt Turner's the number 2 at Arsenal. Zach Steffen's on loan and not looking
that
good.
To themselves, though? Like, listen, I get it. You want to make big bucks. You want to play for big teams. But I was always a player that I'd rather be playing for a lower division team, but playing and getting minutes than wasting my career as a goalkeeper, getting the big bucks, but not playing. And I think they're damaging their career. We've seen the decrease in the level of these players that are only playing. I mean, Zach Steffen was fantastic when he was over here, but now every time he has the ball at his feet, he looks like he's going to crap himself, you know?
Yeah. He might.
You come back anytime, Jessica.
I will. I'll go ahead and piss off hashtag USMNT Twitter, who should be starting in Qatar. Sean Johnson. Sean Johnson's having a career year, and he's playing.
It's about consistency as a goalkeeper. That's the thing, and I don't think people that aren't goalkeepers really understand. But if you take a season out, you're not the same goalkeeper. You don't have the same sharpness. And unlike any other position where you can come in for 10 minutes as a sub, stay fresh, you are literally sitting on the bench watching someone else. There's no real game scenario in practice that you can ever replicate as a real game, because if you're playing against your teammates, you know where they favor the shot. You know their tendencies. They're not playing as hard on you because it's a practice still. And I think that that's why they're damaging their careers by making these big ones. And that's why I worry about Gaga as well a little bit. I get it. He's 18 years old. He
could be in that mix. He could be.
But I worry about where his career is going with this signing for Chelsea.
At least he's going after the World Cup. Like, if you're going to chase that, I get it. It's money. It's a big club. I get it. That's fine. Going into the World Cup, Turner's move is the one that baffles me. He should have been loaned back to the Revs to finish the season out, and he would have been the guy. Now it's up for grabs. Gaga could be the guy, but I think it's Sean Johnson.
Gaga's too
little too up and down for me.
Having watched him play very recently, inconsistent, had moments of brilliance, but also had immature moments, and his footwork, like you told me in the pregame.
Yeah. Sean's the guy for me, and that's gonna really piss everybody off.
That's what we're here for.
Yep.
All right, couple more.
Okay.
And then we'll get Jessica out of here. Jessica, this is specific. I cannot say that. It's specifically for you. As a goalkeeper, what did you think of the ordeal David Ochoa went through with RSL, and how do you think he will do under Rooney's tutelage at DC United?
There was some behind-the-scenes stuff there. David Ochoa came up through RSL, very brash. Chose Mexico over the U.S. to represent. Better pathway to play. I mean, we talk about all these U.S. goalkeepers. Like, after Memo retires for Mexico, if that ever happens, because he might be 95 years old.
But it's
like
Colombian goalkeepers with Ospina. You know what I mean? Like, once he's gone, you've got a fresh
it's open. And Ochoa is young, but he's in the last year of his contract, and supposedly there are some big issues with him and training. And Pablo Mastroeni's not the guy to play with in that scenario.
And I do think people that hold. We've seen people be very vocal about contracts on their podcasts, those kind of things. And you have to be the ultimate professional at the end of the day. You need to handle yourselves at a level that other clubs want you. Because if you go out there and you potentially refuse to train, or you don't want to do this sort of thing, or you talk very badly about your team, it shows a lot. And that's where people are going to tick that box off, and they're going to be like, you're not a player that fits our character anymore. And I think you can really hinder your career. And perhaps you can put things like that down to immaturity, but you've just got to have better people around you, better mentors, better advisories to stop you making poor decisions that could potentially really affect your career.
Yeah, the door opened, and Zach McMath has been awesome at RSL. He wasn't giving that job up once he finally got a starting gig somewhere. What else we have, Scott?
All right, we'll end on this one. Oops, sorry. Again for you, Jess.
Check Twitch too if we have a couple there.
It's just a lot of Twitter hate for you, Jason.
That's fine. That's nothing new. I'm used to it.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, I got it.
Welcome to my timeline.
Sit down. Jess, for you. Name the best and the not so best MLS away stadiums to call a game. And we had this discussion in one of our first shows.
Hold on.
I don't travel.
Yeah, Charlotte doesn't travel yet.
I'm calling up
we didn't travel the first year either. So, I mean, that's that's a whole different experience.
But I will say that it's very different calling from a dead Bank of America stadium versus the fan base. I would say, though, and I think we've got some of the best grub in terms of concessions in Charlotte FC for the media. We got some pretty good spreads.
It was pretty good. It's definitely one of the best. There's a few that, no, you just eat before you get there. Like, I'll let you know those before we go. I don't want to throw anybody under the bus right now. When you start traveling, hopefully next year you guys start traveling, because you know how it is. It changes the call. It makes it so much easier to do your job when you can see everything and feel it. Worst place in the league to call a game from is DC.
You've got no vision, right?
Yeah.
No question. It's you can't see anything. It's if they don't open the windows up in front because it's cold and the media might shiver a little bit, then it's funhouse mirrors because you're looking through like 3 different pieces of glass.
Did you recorded that night at Wild Heaven when we did this with Mike Conti and Kevin Egan?
Yeah.
You recorded it. Is it still on the site?
Yeah.
Where people going to download that podcast and let's say if you haven't, that is some of the funniest stuff you'll ever hear.
Brett Shea disappeared into thin air as I'm calling the game.
It is some of the funniest stuff
you'll
ever
Clayton
hear.
State, you get practice for that. We're up in a little makeshift tower. No vision of
the
corner.
only okay, look, the view so much better than DC. Not even close. The only thing about Clayton State that's a little scary is the ladder.
You do have to climb up a ladder with your backpack that pulls you down.
Yeah,
it's been the same since 2013 when I started.
That's a little scary.
My favorite thing is when they did you watch them move the computer down? They have like a
dumbwaiter.
Yeah, I don't even know what it's
wow.
called. I'm like miming it, but they have like almost like a harness that goes on the computer and then they like lower it down to you.
Like the kids from the Sandlots clubhouse you're doing this from.
The fun place that we've called games together from is Oglethorpe.
Because you're on the pitch.
We're at the 4th officials table.
But it's awkward because if you're talking trash on the referee, they can hear you.
Yeah, I don't criticize the referees too much at Oglethorpe because yes, they can hear you. You can hear the coaches very clearly, and at times you need to talk over what the coaches are saying very loudly because it's going to be caught on the mics.
Yes, there's a lot of PG-13 language on those ones.
It can happen, yes.
I do see somebody ask here on the Twitch saying for Jess, what was the podcast you mentioned that you required?
No, so I vary it up. I will literally just type in Spotify, the team that we're playing, podcast, pick a couple, listen. And then I also listen to One to Decompress, which is a fun podcast. If you're not from England, you probably won't find it as funny as I do, but it's called Shagged, Married, Annoyed. And it's a married couple just talking about life. And it's funny as hell. And I think sometimes you need those moments. I'll listen to the podcasts that are actually work for the first 2 hours or so. Last 2 hours, I'll just have a bit of a giggle. Because I think if you work too hard and take it too seriously, you just can't.
One I've been wanting to get into, though, too, is the one that Dak Shepard hosts. I've heard so much. Dak Shepard, you know Dak Shepard, the actor?
Oh, yeah, Dax and
Kristen Bell.
Kristen Bell.
His wife, yeah.
I was about to say Veronica Mars.
But apparently, and I have not had a chance to who?
She played Veronica Mars, the TV show.
Okay.
It's a great show.
You're going over my head.
Great show.
But I've heard like unbelievable, like that just zone out and laugh kind of thing. That's, I don't know.
You got
when you're on the road, do it one time, you'll laugh, you'll think of me. There you go.
Doing this, like calling games in the seasons that I think both of our teams have had, you've got to have something to get away to at times. You know,
it's rough. And with me, with the commute, I mean, it's the best thing to happen to me, but it still makes for very, very exhausting weeks. So you just got to have some fun, whether it be we have the radio station I commentate on owns a bar. And we just go there and play soccer tennis. And everyone will know from my Soccer in the Streets days that
oh boy,
when it comes to Jess and soccer tennis, I don't play.
Have you injured anybody yet?
No, but I almost injured myself before a game. And I was like, I got to be careful. I'm not going to hobble up to the press box.
Yes.
But I think that soccer tennis is a very good way for me to decompress as well. And everyone has different ways of preparing. My partner likes to go up and read his notes and for a long time. For me, I feel like I've done enough beforehand. As long as I have that hour and a half in there to really refocus afterwards. But I like to have a bit of fun once I've driven that way.
Yeah, I need a little bit of like cramming time before the game, before the pregame. But yeah, I don't want too much because then it becomes more robotic. But
have either one of you, real quick, we'll end on this,
okay.
and then you can say about it. And I hate the name, so I'm going to apologize for the name. But they're starting to show it on ESPN too. Have either one of you seen this Omega Ball?
Omega Ball?
No. So the answer is going to be no, right?
No,
Correct?
I
You're
have
not
no
saying
idea what
this?
you're talking about.
So, in other words, take the center circle on a soccer field, correct?
Okay.
All right. And they put 3 goals on
Okay.
it. You have 3 teams inside the circle, 1 goalie manning each goal,
All right.
and 4 players in it, and they're all in there at the same time. And you can score on any one of the other
We've
2
done something like
goals
that in
and
college.
go.
That's a drill. Like,
It's a drill.
I've
It's
seen
based off like practice
Yeah.
drills. You watch it, and it's like it's kind of entertaining.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, watching it on ESPN2 at 2 a.m. It's not really exactly the highest competition in the world, but still, it's got the makings of this. I was just wondering if you had seen it. These drills that are starting to show up as sports, like they're trying to turn them into mainstream
but beach
sports.
soccer, if you can watch beach soccer,
Beach
that's
soccer,
some
yeah.
of the most
Yeah,
impressive stuff.
that's
One
fun.
of my former teammates plays for the English women team, and it's bad as hell. It's so good.
Yeah, beach soccer, futsal, like there's these little varieties of things that are a lot of fun.
Just playing indoor on a Wednesday night at XL Sports World.
Have you injured anybody there?
No, but my back is killing from last night. I got wall slammed so hard.
Oh, that's the worst. That's
Hashtag
I
the
just
worst.
popped back up.
Hashtag wall slapped. That's
That's the
we need to run a
worst.
contest with that hashtag.
That could get out of hand. That's a
Indoor
bad
with
idea, Scott.
walls is like vicious, but
Yeah.
so much fun. I just love it. The ball never goes out. You're physical. You
It's
go
just
shoulder
chaos.
to shoulder. It's co-ed. Love getting there, shoulder, and then just spring up and everyone's, "Are you okay?" Yeah, I'm fine. Leave me alone.
Well, and that was one of the
Complete
appeals
chaos.
when I just came across this one night, and then I read up about it, and it's moving. Like Kobe Jones is a part of it, and is doing stuff with it. But just I guess the appeal of it was just that it is kind of this nonstop.
Yes,
because you
different.
can go to any
Which
goal.
is why indoors so,
So,
good, because the
yeah.
ball never goes out of play.
Yeah, I'll have to look for it. That's interesting. Maybe we'll start calling some Omega Ball games or
Hey,
something.
You know, we say yes to whatever we can get our hands
We'll
on.
have an Omega Ball Brewery tournament. That's
Whatever
what
we
we'll do.
can get, we'll do it. Jess, thanks for first rescheduling since we had to reschedule this.
What can I say? I'm a woman of my word.
And thanks
Yeah.
for the time. You guys let everybody know if they want to listen to the Charlotte broadcast, what it is for this weekend and where they can find it.
So WFNZ.com will be your best bet, obviously, because you're out of region.
Odyssey app. That's
Odyssey
where
app,
I
that's a
listen to
good
you guys.
one. And it's a 10 p.m. pregame show. So it's going to be a late night
Ooh.
party, 10:30 p.m. kickoff, LAFC. It's going to be a tough game. But join us. It's a lot of fun. And MLS After Dark never disappoints.
I will probably be able to catch the end of that when we get back from Cincinnati. We're on at 7 on 92.9 The Game and on the Odyssey app. So you can be on the same app. You can listen to the Atlanta United game on the Odyssey app, then flip over to WFNZ and listen to the Charlotte game. You're set. The Odyssey app's got you taken care of. Kickoff for us is 7:38. It is a local TV
It'll be
game, so it should be
10:38,
normal.
I think. I hope.
Yeah, you
If
guys
it's
should.
any later than 10:30.
Is it
I'm
a
out.
national TV game?
No, I don't think so.
Then
No.
you should be 10:38. Yeah, so you should be okay. So it's a doubleheader Saturday night. You can listen to both of us on radio on the Odyssey app. Thank you for hanging out with us.
Absolutely. Anytime.
Thank you, everybody, for hanging out with us today at Line Creek. Thanks, everybody, watching on Twitch. More content coming up on the SDH app as we go. John and Gerald take care of you tomorrow. Mucha plata, y'all.
Mucha plata.